All right, welcome back. We are game 1116, that's game programming 3, in the fall 2025 semester at Georgian, and it's week 4. I can't believe how fast things are moving. Part 1 of our broadcast and recording together, and this time we are on Zoom live for those people who decide to come on, whoever those people are. This week we have a packed agenda of things that we're going to be doing. So we're working on a bunch of stuff, and one part is going to be all you, right? So this is where we're actually going to get you to do something. So what we're doing this week is I'm going to be improving the player. I'm going to be adding something called an attribute component, right, which is going to be done in C++. Woohoo, right? We're going to be adding a health bar or health and ammo properties and all that stuff, right? We're also going to improve the drone, which is basically adding patrol points, getting the drone to explode when it damages the player, and a bunch of other really cool things. Then for you to do, you're going to actually create pickups, right? So that's going to be something that you're going to do for your extra 2 marks. Again, ICE 4, which is this in-class exercise, is due this Friday at midnight. That's tomorrow, and you guys should be able to do it in the time frame that you had. All right, so let's get moving on this then. So before we begin, I want to start with our project because right now I'm just going to go to the project that I have here. Last week, what we were left with was in-class exercise 3. Here it is locally. And for whatever reason, if you couldn't do in-class exercise 3, I invite you to please download mine. Now, last time I did have some students who wanted to download my in-class exercise 3 and submit it to me, back at me, kind of thing. So this is not for that. When I create stuff, I just want to say this on the video, when I create stuff for you guys, it's a reference. If I see that you're using my stuff, and I know when you're using my stuff, I'm not going to tell you how I know that, but I do know that. Then you'll get 0, and it's cheating, really. It's like you're not doing your work, right? So please don't do that. If I do catch anyone, and there was some people that I did talk to already, I'm going to take it far. So please let's not even go there and want to talk about it, because it makes me mad. So let's move on. So what I want to do now is let's go to DevOps, because I think it's important for us to do that. So if we go to DevOps here, again, what I recommend you guys do is go to Blackboard, and then it'll take you here to COMP1116, right, where if you look at my DevOps repos, you're going to see ICE 3 and ICE 3A. If you haven't finished ICE 3 for whatever reason, or you don't feel yours is of great quality, you can always start with mine. Okay, so that's where you would start. ICE 3, you download this, and then you start off from there. However, if you're someone like me who's got something that was working last week and you're satisfied with it, you can certainly make a copy of it. Now remember, I want a separate repo. So I don't want the same repo with another branch or anything like that. No. It's got to be a separate repo for each in-class exercise. We have unlimited repos on our DevOps. So all I would ask you to do is copy ICE 3 and paste it. And what this will do, like I'm showing you here, is it's going to make a copy of the folder. Right now, there's some complications with this, like we talked about last week. Right? Like, for example, our remote is still going to be pointing to ICE 3. We don't want that. So here I'm just going to rename this folder first to ICE 4. That's the first thing I'm going to do. And then once I've changed that, when we launch, we're going to have this Git, kind of hidden Git folder, and that's fine. So this is different. So what happened last time is we downloaded it from DevOps. Right, and when we download from DevOps, what ends up happening is it says, oh, there's some stuff that's missing. Let's see if it can be done this way without downloading from DevOps. Let's suppose you have a working version that you just want to expand from your ICE 3 to ICE 4. Let's see what happens if we do it that way. So first I'm just going to launch the new one. Let's launch it. I'm just waiting for it to launch here. And welcome my online friends, thank you. So now that, that we've got this, and you can see that I've got my project. We'll always try and run the project, you know, I'll be honest, I always try and do this as soon as I'm there because, you know, I got these pesky meeting controls, which I'm going to hide. There we go. So I want to run this stuff and see what happens. All right, so you can see that I still got the same thing, shooting down the sights. I can still kind of attack the drone. I can do all the regular things that I can normally do. So that's the first thing. The other thing I want to do is I want to load Visual Studio. So I'm going to do it through a class. I'm going to go to my classes. I have one class, which is the FPS character class. I'm going to double click on it, and what it's going to do is launch Visual Studio. And this is important because this way I can do all that stuff that I need to do in the developer terminal, which is where I want to get to next, right? So again, I'm going to start with my previous project and work towards the new one. Okay, so I'm going to wait till this loads, and just going to do one of these. Open up my, that's the engine code. So again, you can see that the engine code is there. Let's look at that, UE5. I don't care about the engine code there, I want my stuff. Where is it? Weird. Visualizations, rules. It's not weird. I got this stuff, but that's not really what I want. Screen is being transcribed. Okay, you guys don't have to transcribe my video. I'm already doing the transcription, but whatever. Standard settings. That's weird, man. So normally, like I said, you should be able to see this. Let's see if I see. There we go. That's what I wanted, and you get to see this. So here's my starting source, and then what you're going to see here is inside here, I'm going to have my FPS character and my .h file. Those two things, and then I'm going to bring up my terminal. Let's go to the terminal here. There we go. And under terminal, I'm going to do something like this. I'm going to say get remote, and what that's going to do is show me origin. If you want to be more descriptive, it's get remote minus v, and you can see that it's pointing to ICE3. I need to remove the remote, so the command to remove the remote is get remote remove origin, and that removes the remote, the origin remote. Okay, so those are the commands. So I've removed the remote from my copy of ICE3, which is now ICE4, and now what I'm hoping is right, that I can make a new remote up on DevOps. I'm going to go back to DevOps here. Here's DevOps. So let's make a new repo on DevOps. Again, please do not include a README file. That would be bad. I'm just going to put here ICE4 to start off. And when I do that, you're going to see that I have this. You're going to see that I have this piece right here. And I want to do a couple things. I want to grab this right here, copy. I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to right-click and paste. That adds the new remote. That's what this does. And then if I press Enter, if everything goes well, then it should push to my new repo up on DevOps. But last time, what ended up happening was that we had a bunch of errors. Remember that error that I got? And it was because when I downloaded from DevOps, DevOps didn't have everything that I had last time. And so what happened is it kind of does a kind of like a checklist of stuff that it's looking for. And if it's missing something, it'll error out. And this is what it might do here. Let's see. Right here at the end. Because it can upload, but then it has this like issue where it doesn't like certain things, and it'll come up with an error, right? Ha! It worked. So let me tell you why it worked this time. Because I made a copy. I didn't download it from DevOps, right? So now if I go back to DevOps, and if I refresh, you can see now, here it is. Here's last week's work on ICE4 this time around. Okay, nice and easy, right? All right, hopefully you guys are with me. You can do this any way you like, but I'm going to continue to add commits. One thing I noticed is some people had very few commits, right? Very, very few. One thing that this is going to do for us is right away I start with all these commits. These are the commits that came from ICE3, right? So you can see that I keep my commits if I just copy and then kind of launch it on ICE4, which is pretty cool. All right, so back to this then. So now that I've got my Unreal Engine working, you can see that this is working okay, and a bunch of stuff, I'm ready to start today. So what do I want to do? I talked about a big list of things that I want to do today, and so let's start with this one. I want to add something called an actor component. So again, I've provided the fine documentation, which I wholeheartedly think you should look at, what components are and what an actor component is. And to me, what I look at it is it gives us a little bit more, another option when it comes to creating a container, almost like a little struct that I can use for other properties. That's what I look at actor components like, okay? So instead of making your own struct, which you could, I find that the actor component is actually a really good way of doing this. So that's one thing that it has here. I'm just gonna get out of that. So where do we use it? We wanna, again, reusable building blocks is what we're gonna be using. A good idea is things like if I want to keep track of movement or health systems, audio management, a bunch of stuff, I can do all things with actor components. And there's usually extra properties. It's a way of separating concerns. And if I create a certain thing, let's say, for example, I create a health system on my player, I can use the exact same health system on my drone, all right? Which is kind of, instead of us doing it twice, I can just do it once and then copy it over, right? So that's pretty cool. So what I want to do now is I want to make a new C++ class. All right, so this is the thing. Are you guys with me? How about my friends online? I know that we have quite a few people. I see that there's people online. Here you go, guys. Hey, guys. There you are. Welcome. All right. So what I want to do now is I want to create a new C++ class. So I'm going to go back into here, and I'm going to go to new C++ class. This time, instead of getting a character, I want to scroll down to where it says actor component, and I'm going to click next, actor component next, and then for my actor component, just like we said, we want this to be called the attribute component. So attribute component, that's what it says here in our PowerPoint. I'm just going to go with that. So attribute component, which is what we want, right? And then I'm going to click create class. And when I do that, it's going to do the same dance like we did last time, which is it's going to create the class in Visual Studio. If Visual Studio is not open, then it will open it for you, right? Hopefully it was open because you did all that stuff with things. It's also going to run this live coding window for the first time, and you should get something that looks green on the bottom here. Right now, Visual Studio is flashing, and it's going to tell me to reload my project, which is very good. I want to reload the project because it's kind of going to add in the attribute component piece to it. If I go back here, you can see that this is still not done, and you should really wait until this is finished on the Unreal side in order for it to be done. Now it's getting there, and when it does finish, you want to see this green successfully linked patch. Okay, if you don't see this as an example, then something failed, and that would be bad. But now that we've done that, and you can see the new attribute component here inside of classes, I want to save all, so click save all, and I want you now to close down Unreal Engine, the editor, because remember what we want to do? We want to build from Visual Studio, right? Because that's what we normally do. So I'm going to close that down. And let's set everything up as we normally do. So again, what I typically do for attribute component is I get rid of all of this, all the extra boilerplate comments, because I don't need that stuff. We know what those things do. I'm also going to grab all of this, right? And like I said to you before, I like to have only one public section. I don't like having multiple public sections here. And so I'm just going to do that, just move that around. I'm just going to hide this piece so you can see what I've done. All I've done is I moved this virtual void tick component up to here. That's what I've done. And that's the first step that you want to do. And I also want to do the same thing with the .cpp. We're not going to do a lot with the .cpp right now. Not yet, anyway. But we're going to see how this works. So I'm just going to just clean this up a little bit because I don't care for these components, these comments, I mean. And this way, saves us some noise. We can always add comments later. I don't think they're a bad thing. I'm just saying I don't want them right now. And that's the first step. The first step is actually getting this, right? What I want to do next, after I've done all that stuff, now, okay, in the previous, in the PowerPoint, what it says is, how do I manage word wrap? Because you can see how sometimes I get these very large lines in Visual Studio, and I want to manage it. So let's talk about that a little bit. So where you want to go is you want to go to Tools Options, and Text Editor Languages General, or select Text Editor. And then what you want to do under Settings, you want to select Word Wrap, which is right here. Okay, so let's do that. So again, going back to Thing, to this part here, I'm just going to hide my floating meeting controls for a second. And if I'm not wrong, let's go back to that. So it just goes to Tools Options, Tools Options. And then from there, I believe you have to go to Text Editor. And I think you got to go to Languages, C++, Word Wrap. And then when you click that on and press OK, then when you have stuff like, for example, my Solution Explorer that comes on, then it will wrap your stuff so you can see it. You can see this little word wrap thing on the right. And what this will do is it'll make it a little bit more visible for very long lines of code like this for you and for me, so we don't have to continue. Hopefully you got that. All right, so now that we've done that, I'm just gonna kill this thing. Now that we've done this, I'm just gonna go back to this and talk about the things that I wanna add. I wanna add 3 properties: health, max health, and ammo. Now you guys have added properties before, and I want to do the same thing here by adding these 3 properties. Okay, let's talk about that. So again, I want to add them in the protected section. So we're going to say U property. And then we're going to call these core attributes, if I'm not wrong. Yep. So edit anywhere, blueprint, read, write category is core attributes. And I'm going to make this health. So it's float health. It's going to be 100F, right? There we go. And I also want to make a U property. I love when it does that stuff. U property. And I want to make max health also. I think that's pretty cool. It doesn't have to be in the same order that I said before, but this is kind of where I want. And then ammo, which is an integer. So U property. And then I want to do an integer, which is ammo, and we're going to set that to 50 by default. So there you go. So there's 3 properties we're going to add in, and that'll enable, hey Abby, that'll enable us to have those 3 things right here. And what this is going to do for us is give us 3 properties that we can reuse. Okay, which is pretty cool. Okay, are you with me so far? All I've done is added properties. Again, you can follow along with PowerPoint if you fall behind, and it should work the same way for you. I've tried to make it as detailed as possible, almost like a follow through. And so this way, if you miss something or whatever, you can go back and look at the PowerPoint. It took me a while to do, but it is what it is. So now that I've got that, I also want to add a function called get health percentage. This is new for you, so let's talk about this a little bit. So U function. And this one is going to be blueprint callable and a category core attributes as well. So again, we're going to say blueprint callable. So a blueprint callable function allows you to call it in the blueprint itself. If it wasn't blueprint callable, then even if I made a function, it might be something that I can't call for whatever reason inside the blueprint. There's functions like that. Okay. And then what I want to call this is I want to get health percentage. So I want to make a float that's get health percentage. Oops, get health percentage. And it's basically going to calculate it inline. So it's going to basically calculate the health divided by max health, and that's going to give me the percentage, right? So if I have like 80 over 100, max health being 100, 80 being the current health, then my percentage would be 0.8. right? But this is the beautiful thing. What I want to do is I want to force it inline. So force inline is one word, force inline. And what this does is it allows it tells the compiler, right, to expand it right here, which is really interesting. Notice that I wrote it in one. I didn't have two parts to it. Normally C++, I talked about this. We want to kind of separate concerns, and I want to have my .h and my .cvp, my .cvp separate, and I want to declare it in the .h and define it more detail in the .cvp. However, my friends, if I only do one operation, and all I'm doing is this, health divided by max health, I mean, I don't really have to do it. So it's just a quick way of doing it, and I recommend forcing it inline if there's one thing that you're doing like this, okay? So that is my function that we just wrote. So the first time we've written a U function, I believe. So a couple properties, a few properties in a function. And then on the CPP side, one thing that we want to do is we want to remove the tick component. So notice that I had the tick component there before, and what I'm saying is go inside the public, yep. Go inside the public. Don't know why that happens. No reason. I haven't touched anything. So we won't be using the tick component function for the attribute component. So it says, please remove the declaration. So that means it's this tick component. Even though I had it here, I'm going to remove it. So I'm going to get rid of it. Which means that on the .cpp side, I also have to get rid of it here. This whole thing has to be removed because that doesn't make any sense because there is no tick component. And I'm also going to say primary component tick can ever tick. We're going to say that is false. So let me explain why I'm doing all this stuff because I want you guys to understand it. Tick is like update in Unity, right? So if I have it on, it actually takes up cycles. That means every component that you put on in Unreal Engine, if I have it have an update function equivalent, that means the system is going to check that and update it, even if it's empty. That's going to be an extra computation every frame. Why would I do that, right? The only time I want to check an update is if I need it for some reason, and I don't need it here. So to optimize, I've removed it, okay? All right, so that's what I've done there. So I've removed that, attribute component.cpp will only look like this now, where, primary component tick can't ever tick is false, right? So now we want to save everything, and I want to control F5. So again, this sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. Let's see if it works this time. Control F5. How it should work is it should compile, it should succeed, and it should launch Unreal Engine's editor right from Visual Studio. Okay, so that's assuming that everything is set up properly. If it doesn't, you do have other options, but you need to compile this code somehow, which means if this fails, I got to do that trick, which is removing the folders that I don't like to remove, but I can remove those and do all my fancy footwork and relaunch Unreal Engine after the build. It needs to be built. There is no way around this. If you don't build this thing out for whatever reason, and if it doesn't do this, then what's going to happen is your Unreal Engine's editor is going to be out of sync with Visual Studio, and the functionality that you think you have, you don't have, right? And that would be bad, okay? There we go. So let's back to this. I'm just going to close these down. I don't need the ABP blueprint. I don't need this right now. But I wanted to show you that attribute component is still there after a reload. Okay, I'm just going to wait for you, and I'm just going to ask you the question, are you with me? Because if you're not, that would be bad. How about my friends online? I'm just going to, let's show all my people up online here. There we go. Got a few people here. Hopefully you guys are good. Aloha. All right, so so that is where we are right now. How about my friends here? You're still loading? Good, good, good. Everyone else? Yeah? Okay. So we've added the actor component. This attribute component is what we've added, right? And what I want to do now, after we've come back to Unreal Engine, is add it onto my FPS character. I want to have FPS character utilize this new component that we just made. We're customizing our character class one more time. So again, what I want to do is I want to go back to C++. So let's go back and save all. Let's save all. And I want to close down Unreal Engine again. So let's do that. I'm just going to hide these and close Unreal Engine's editor. Back to Visual Studio for a second, okay? So in Visual Studio, I want to have my FPS character use the attribute component. Right? I've just got that, right? So just like it says here, the first thing I want to do is I want to forward declare it. And it's important to do that. So again, class, this new thing I just made, u attribute component, right? I want to forward declare, right? Again, we don't want to include anything in the .h file we're not going to immediately use. And if we're ever, inherit from player, FPS character, then we don't want it to have a bunch of load on the .h. So scrolling down now, what I want to think about is I'm going to add a component, this new attribute component. I want to do this just after the move and look functions. So just over here, I'm going to say that here is the attribute component, right? And we're going to, it's going to be of type U property, if I can actually type U property. Wow, it's terrible. It's forcing me to do stuff that I don't want to do. It's a whole terrible thing. U property. So what I want to do is I want to call edit anywhere, blueprint, read, write, and category attributes. All right. So edit anywhere. This is where it becomes really annoying. Blueprint, read, write. And category attributes is what it should be. So you don't have to, if there's only one word, remember, you don't need the quotation marks. So if you did attributes, that's okay. And if you wanted to put quotation marks around this because you feel weird about it, you can, but you don't need to. Okay. And then what I want to make this is a T object pointer. So T object pointer of type U attribute component. And it's going to be called attributes, just like it says here. Okay, so again, why a T object pointer? Just to remind you, it is a managed pointer that is connected to the reflection system. So what it allows us to do is Unreal Engine does garbage collection on this pointer compared to having it raw. A raw pointer means that you have to do all the garbage collection because it's pointing at a memory location. And you might end up having a dangling pointer, so a memory leak, basically. You know, it's looking at some memory location, especially if you have memory stored in there, and it's not going to release that memory. And as you play your game, your game is going to get slower and slower and slower, you know, until it crashes potentially. So here's the T object pointer that we've made. And so that's the first thing. So we've added attributes. Now we have to add attributes to the character, right? So one thing is to add the property. So this is the property. Yay, we add a property. But we need to initialize it. And the way to do that is inside the CPP. We're going to include in the CPP, going back to this, and I want to put the include before the enhanced input subsystem, right up here. So I want to say something like include. And again, we have it here. It's going to be called attribute component.h. So I don't have to include. There we go. Attribute component.h. So this is pointing here. Notice here on the right-hand side, attribute component.h is inside the same folder as my regular stuff. So I don't have to use any kind of other thing. I don't have to hunt for it. It's right here. Okay. And then inside the begin play, somewhere, or in the character, actually the best place to put it is in the character constructor, this right here. What I want to do is I want to configure it, and the way to do that, it would be to pull up attribute component. Let's type this in, and what I want to do is I want to create default object of type attribute component, right? That's what it is. So it looks like this. Attributes is what it should be actually. Not attribute component, attributes. Okay, because we called it attributes. It's of type attribute component. So attributes basically, okay, so this one, maybe we haven't seen this before, create default subobject. We're going to do more of this coming forward. So whenever I want to create an object that's going to appear in Unreal Engine's editor, like it's actually going to appear there now, I got to do this. It actually is like creating a game object in Unity. Right, so I'm going to say, hey, create default subobject of type uAttribute component, the one we just made. And then it's going, the text part, this part right here, is going to show whatever I want it. So if I want it to be called something else, then that's what it would be here. Now, I called it attributes, and I want you to call it attributes as well. Instead of attribute component, let's just call it attributes in the text as well. So it comes up as attributes. It's important because whatever it shows up as in is how we're going to use it in Unreal Editor. Okay, so that's it. And then once we have those things and we save, let's make sure we save all. So we save the project, right? And so again, just to go back, we've added the for declaration for attribute component that we just made, right? We've added a U property, right? Which is the attribute component here called attributes, okay? It's both edit anywhere and blueprint read write category attributes. We've done that. We've gone to the CPP side, and what we've done is we've made an include happen up here, which includes the attribute component that we just defined earlier. And then we initialize the attributes component by using create default subobject, which actually instantiates an object of type attributes, or create attribute component, and we will see it visibly. You'll see this visibly in the editor when we get there, okay? So that's what you need. And now that we have all that and we're confident that those are all good, Control F5, please. And then what that's going to do, again, is it's going to launch the editor. And then inside of your new BP underscore FPS character, you're going to see that there is an attribute component or called attributes that's going to appear. Okay? This is very important. So again, we're here, and what I want to do is I want to launch my, under Blueprint, I want to launch my, I'm just going to hide this thing. I want to launch my BP underscore FPS character, right, here we go. And then here's something I want you to take a look at. Take a look at this, right? Now I have attributes. There it is. There's the attributes component right here, right? And if I click onto it, guess what? On the right-hand side, right, you can see that I have core attributes that you can see: health, max health, and ammo. So that's like adding a little panel right here inside of Unreal Engine. Now, how does this relate to Unity? Because you guys are used to Unity. Imagine if I made a script in Unity, right, a C# script, and I just called it attributes as an example. And then you attach the script onto your character or whatever it is, character controller, like you normally do, a character object. Then what happens is that script is going to appear in the you know, kind of in the editor, right? And you're going to see it there as well. It's going to have its own little drawer like this, right? So the same kind of thing that you would see in Unity is what you see here, except for in Unity we would see it here, like inside of the hierarchy in Unity, not so in the outliner. Unless, notice that the character doesn't even appear here in the outliner because it gets instantiated with the game mode. When the game mode is activated, it launches, instantiates my character and puts it into the scene, and we can't really see it here. So what if we launch my scene? Here's my scene launched, right? And then you can see that I have my BP underscore FPS character right here. This is what launches, right? So I can actually click on that. And if I scroll down, right, or if I search for core attributes here, if I do that, core attributes, you can see core attributes is visible. Here it is, health, max health, and ammo would be visible while I'm playing the game. Okay, if I really want to do that, I can kind of hunt for that. You can see that this is where these abilities are here. Okay, this is important because we can look at these to confirm that what we're seeing in our user interface is the same as what we're seeing in our properties, which is pretty cool. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense to you. So we've done all this, and that's a good thing. We've come to the point where it's back to Unreal Engine's editor, right? And now what I want to do is I want to add a HUD a little health bar that looks like this. Okay, that's what I want to add in. Very common. We've seen this kind of thing before. Have you guys done any kind of user interface with Steve yet? Okay, so I'm way ahead of him. That's good. So when you go back to him again, you'll be like, Steve, we know all this stuff already, right? So, all right, so how does this work? So what do we want to do here? So again, what I'm saying is let's go to, we want to do the overlay. But first, let's talk two things. We've just added a feature, right? I've added in our attribute component. We called it attributes. We attached it to the player. And I want you to think about this as a good example of something called composition, right? So we've talked about inheritance. Inheritance means, you know, our child class inherits from the parent class. But here in FPS character, what we're doing is we're actually using a new class that we made called attributes within the character. We're using it. We're not inheriting from it. So we are composing our character class from other classes. Hence the word composition, which is actually what you know, programmers want us to do. Rather, we want to go with composition over inheritance all the time because it's less dependencies. We can always remove the attribute if we really want to, and it's not going to break our character. Okay. So let's put that up on DevOps. I'm going to go back to Visual Studio, and I'm going to pull up our terminal. And here, you know, great thing about this is we're right in the right spot. So let's add it in. So I'm going to say git add dot. Lot to add. Git commit -m, and we'll say added attribute component to FPS character. We could have done another commit if we really wanted to, but this is pretty good. I'm going to do a push. So that'll push it back into my new project. There we go. Okay, so there it is. So now that we've done that push, I want to talk about the overlay. So the way to do that is I want to go to the HUD, right? And the WBP FPS overlay, which is what we did last time, gave us a little reticle. And I challenged you guys to align it properly. Some of you did a pretty good job. Other people didn't understand what I wanted, and they did some part of it, but not the whole thing. And I took off some marks, not a lot. But there's some marks taken off for those things. I want to add two new things here. I want to add on the top left corner a progress bar, which is what we're going to use. So if you look here, if I go back to the PowerPoint, we want to grab a progress bar. So if you, on the left, if it doesn't appear here, you know, as an example, there is under common elements, you can grab progress bar and drag it on. Okay, here's my progress bar. And this will be my health bar. So we're going to name this health bar. There's a health bar. And I'm just going to go to this. Health bar should be a, you know, if we, on the top right, you can see it is a variable. Make sure that that is clicked, right? So that's health bar. I want to start configuring it like it says. So the first thing I want to do is the tint. I mean, you can make it a little bigger for now, just so that it's more visible. I just dragged this to make it a bit bigger, but we're going to give you the exact numbers in a second. Also, notice that the anchor point is the top left corner of the canvas. This is where it's going to anchor from, right? And I want to go into style, onto style, and there's two parts to style. You can see that there's a background image, right, which we're going to tint red. We're going to tint that red. And there is a foreground image, or fill image, if you will, where we're going to tint that to green. All right, so kind of a green color. Let's make it all green. So we're just going to reduce that. Press OK. And the reason why it doesn't show up green is because if I scroll down, progress, if you go to the progress area, it shows you 0%. See that? Let's make this so that it is 0.5. So that is, so we can see that that is what it's going to look like. Right, it's kind of a preview what it looks like, right? And that's under, again, it's under the progress section, right? And you can put in 0.5, you know, as an example, or whatever you want. If you want to put 0.8, it should show 0.8, you know, whatever it's going to be. I just want to show you what that looks like, so you can test it out to make sure it works the same way. I want to scroll up here now, and I want to modify these so that you have exactly what I have. And I've given you the controls. If you actually look here, the position is 60 and 60. So let's do that. So 60 and 60. That gives you the exact position of where my health bar is going to be. The size that I want to use is 500 by 50. So this would be 500, quite a long health bar, by 50 wide, right? One other thing that you can do is inside the style, notice that the draw as has it as a box. You can choose to make it rounded. I want a rounded box to kind of make it like a pill-like form, and I want to do that for both the background image and the fill image. I want to change those to draw as rounded box here, like this. So now you can see the health bar starting to look a little bit more like a health bar, right? Okay, so health bar added. That's the first part. How are my friends doing online? Are we together? Are you with me? Hopefully you are. Again, you can react by putting up your thumbs up online, one of those kind of things. So I know that you're good. Let's take a look what we got here. Got a couple thumbs up. I got Griffin says he's a thumbs up. Joshua did a check mark. Thanks, Joshua. There we go. All right. Thank you, my friends. So I think that that's the first part. The next part that we want to get into after we do the health bar, again, is I want to add in a ammo label, right? And the ammo label is going to be kind of towards the bottom. I want to change the anchor to the right, the bottom right. So again, it's a text object. I'm going to put in. I'm just going to drag it into the bottom right over here. It's a text block. You can see that that's the first thing. And then I want to change the anchor. So notice the anchor itself. I want to change this to bottom right. So you see that the anchor point comes down here. I want to name this ammo label. Ammo label. And the ammo label itself is not going to be a variable. I don't care about changing that. Give it some room somewhere around here for now. And then it gives us the exact coordinates here. So minus 50, minus 150 is where it should be. So minus 450. Minus 450, Tom, there we go. Now minus 45. Minus 450, okay, I said. And then minus 150 for the other Y position. Minus 150, I was almost right. In terms of size, it's 150 by 60. 150 by 60. And then what I want to do is change the text size to 37. So again, that would be under font. If you go to size, you can choose 37. And then what I want to write in there is something like ammo. There we go, ammo. And that is your ammo label that we added in. Let's add another text block. Now, one thing to do smart, we've already configured the style for this thing, right? So instead of us doing all that again, we can just copy paste. And then what we're going to get is another one, right? But at least it has all the style that we just do, the size and, almost the relative position. Even the anchor point is the same. We just need to change this instead of ammo label to ammo amount, right? This one we do care. We do care about if it's a variable or not. Right, we do care about that. It's going to be at minus 260, right, and minus 150. There we go. So minus 260, minus 150. Did I do something wrong? Ammo amount. Minus 150. I made that wrong. I was meant to do it this way. There we go. 60 and everything else is fine. And then what I want to do is the text, we should test it out with some ammo. So I don't think we're going to get ever more than 999 kind of ammo, like 999, kind of rounds, right? So it's a good test. This is not going to stay that way. This is just our test of what it looks like, right? All right, compile and save that. And that is our new FPS overlay so far, right? We have these two things we've added. Are you with me? Okay. You're looking, everyone, are you sure? You guys good? All right. So now that we've got that, I want to go to the event graph this time, and I want to make a new function inside of the overlay called set health bar percent. And I'll kind of talk about that in a second. The way you get to that is on the top right, there's a graph, right? So if you click on the top right corner, you get the graph, same familiar graph that we normally get. We can delete these nodes. We don't need these right now. But I do want to make a function, and that's going to be that name of the function called set health bar percent, right? And set health bar percent is basically going to take the health bar, that we just made, you can actually drag and drop from here. Look, because we made this a variable, you're going to see it here as health bar. So I can drag this in. Here's my health bar, right? And the other thing that I want is the percent, right? So percent is actually something that I want to add in as an input, right, to the set health bar percent function. So again, what we did last time was we clicked on this. Here in the widget blueprint, on the left you see inputs and outputs this time instead of on the right. Like, it makes us give more graph, but on the bottom left you can see inputs. And I want to add in percent, so that's what it's going to be called, percent. And you can see here I'm going to choose float for percent, right? So that's the floating point for percent right here. So that's what that came from, down here on the bottom left. And then I can just simply type get percent, because I don't want to drag any lines if I don't have to. So I have something like this. And I want to grab the health bar. Now this is important to watch when you're ready. Right, I'm going to just wait, because I know I'm going fast. I want to grab the health bar right here, and I'm going to drag it, and I want to set percent, right? And this set percent is the percent of the health bar. The health bar itself has a percent property. And all I'm going to do is connect my percent here and the execution pins so that your little function looks like neatly like this. There we go. That's what your function should look like. Compile and save, please. So that is my set health bar percent. Again, all of these things, when we add stuff, if you really want to be diligent as a programmer in real life, you commit, commit, commit. Like, there'd be commits like crazy over here. Next, once we've done this set health bar percent, I want to set the ammo amount. That's the other one. Let's do the same idea for the set ammo amount. Okay, amount, again, you're going to see is of type integer. So let's do that. So set ammo amount, I'm just going to copy this, go back here, add a function called set ammo amount. There we go. And then set ammo amount is going to have a new input, right? And that input is going to be called amount of type integer. Might as well do that. Amount of type integer. So we're going to change that to integer. There we go. And then what I want to do is drag the ammo amount from the variable on the left, which we made. So ammo amount, that's the one that is the user interface ammo amount. And I want to get amount. That is my variable that's passed into the function. So they're two different things, right? And then what I want to do is I want to drag from ammo amount, and I want to set the text property of the ammo amount. Because remember, ammo amount is just a label. It's just text, right? So I want to set text. Here's the set text property, right? And I've got amount, and if I drag from amount to in text, it's going to convert it. It's going to basically do a conversion node that converts from integer to string. That's what it's going to be, an integer to string conversion node, right? So your function should look something like this at the end, okay? Compile and save. So what this allows me to do is I can set my user interface through functions. What I want to do is I want to get reference to my overlay from FPS character, right? And then I can update my user interface from my character blueprint, right? Which is what I want to do, okay? So when I pick up ammo or when I get hurt, as an example, then I can display that, kind of thing. Does that make sense? Wonderful. Compile and save. So I've got those two functions, and now in order for me to do that, I have to do something special in my BP FPS HUD. Let's go back to that. So first, before we do that, of course, what are we going to do? Commit. So let's do that. Go back to here. So I'm going to say git add dot. Git commit minus m. We'll say added or updated, FPS overlay to include health bar and ammo count. There we go. And then git push. So this way we'll have everything on DevOps. We've just added a feature, right, or some additional stuff on my overlay. And so we're keeping track of that. Okay, wonderful. So now let's just hide those. I don't need this anymore. What I do need is I do need the BP underscore FPS HUD, this one, where before last week what we did was we created a widget of type WB FPS overlay. What I want to do is I want to capture this reference to the widget. And the way to do this, really cool, take a look guys, this is important. If I hover over the output from the conversion when I create the overlay, and I click right, if I right click here, it's going to give me a chance to do something this. It says promote to variable. So promote to variable, what it does is it actually creates a reference to WBP FPS overlay. And what we want to do is we want to call this FPS overlay. Okay, so again, if you didn't do that, you can always rename it. Going up here, so it's going to be called FPS overlay. There we go. Now there's a couple things. This is not connected to anything, right? This is not good. So what we need to do is reroute everything through here. Here's what you do: disconnect everything. So Alt to disconnect everything. Left click and Alt, right? We want to pass the execution node through this node, this new node, like this. Okay. Here's the execution node we want to pass through, and want to pass through it this way. Okay. So it kind of basically is a middleman. I'm injecting this little node in between. But what this is going to do for us is potentially share a reference to this FPS overlay that we're just adding. And I wanted to do that on the left here where it says FPS overlay. Please click on the little eye icon, open. So what this does is, if you look here, it's instance editable, which means I can edit this, and I can also look at it. I can expose this thing if I need to. All right, compile and save. So that's kind of exactly what I said here. I said make sure the little eye icon is open, FPS overlay, and when you do that, you've exposed this thing from my WPB FPS overlay widget when I instantiate it in the scene. So how this looks is, right now, if I press play, you can see that, hey, look, I got my health bar, and I've got my ammo, and my health bar and my ammo is floating on top of everything else. Take a look. It's in front of the drone. My ammo's on top of the drone, and it kind of always appears, which is pretty cool. Okay, it should show this. Notice mine is rounded corners. Yours, I see yours is like square. It's up to you if you want to keep it that way. But I made it rounded corners because that's what I wanted. All right, so I'm just going to hide that again. All right, so now that I've got that, I want to use this in my character blueprints. So how do I do that? So first of all, what I want to do is I want to go to get a reference to the HUD itself. I need that reference first. So I'm going to call this FPS HUD. So the way to do this is in the player blueprint. I want to skim up to the I'm going to go back to the event graph, and I want to scroll up to where I have the event begin play here. Here's event begin play. And in event begin play, I want to get a reference to this FPS HUD, right? And the way to do that is to use this new node called get actor of class. So again, I can kind of come up from here and type in get actor of class, and this will give me any class I've created. What I want is the BP, just type in BP underscore, FPS HUD. That's what I want to get. BP underscore FPS HUD. This gives me a reference to the HUD, which is going to be instantiated when the game starts. On the right, just like we did last time, there is this return value, and I want you to right-click it and promote this to a variable, right? And this is going to be called FPS HUD, right? FPS HUD. So notice that that is exactly what we've done here, okay? And what I want to do is I can get a reference to it. So let's make a little note. So I'm going to say get reference to FPS HUD. That's what we've done here. I can add that in as a comment. Again, comments are really important when you guys start adding stuff to Unreal Engine, because you kind of comment in your visual coding. Compile and save, please. So again, what this has just done is I got a reference here called FPS HUD. It appears down here as a variable. That's what it does. And it's a global variable that's accessible to anywhere in this blueprint, which is pretty cool. Okay. Later on, we might add a category. Let's say we might want to call this UI, because that's what this is. But for now, let's leave it alone. Next, once we've got this reference to the FPS HUD, the next thing we want to do is, I want to execute this little command. I got a really annoying bug. Here, let me show you what the bug is. Excuse me. Here, let's take a look. Notice when I do this, I'm clipping through the gun. That sucks. I hate that. That's like the worst bug ever, right? In Unity, you have control over something called the near clipping plane, right? In Unity, in the camera. If you actually have a camera, you have the frustum, which basically is the near plane and the far plane of the camera. You have control over how large those are, and what the distance that they are from the near plane to the far plane. So if you're looking at the camera, the near plane is like right here next to your eye, and the far plane is way over here, like outside of the camera, what the camera sees. Then the frustum itself has a scope. It kind of opens up. So depending on how large your field of view is, you can open that up. So that's how the camera works, field of view, right? So the near plane, if it's like, here's the gun, right? As an example, I'm not sure if you guys can see this, but the gun is like inside my camera. So if I pull back the near plane to here, then I can see more of the gun and it doesn't clip, right? Which is what I'm trying to do. So there is no way. The one thing I found out over when I've been using Unreal Engine for a while, is there is no clear way of doing that like we can in Unity unless you use code, right? So to avoid code, because then we'd have to add the camera in FPS character, we have to add it, remove it, lots of changes here. There is a node we can use called the execute console command, all right? And the console command that is here is r.set near clip plane and in space 2. You need to do it like this. So I'll show you what this looks like. So here, I'm going to go back to this. I'm just to add it here. So I'm going to execute console command, execute console command. And the console command will make a global command. This is another reason why I don't like this. But r.set near clip plane. So you have to type it the exact same way. Lowercase r dot set near clip plane space 2. Set near clip plane space 2. This will fix our problem. Okay, that's what this is. So this is our a fix for that problem. And to test this out, I'm not sure when you're ready. You guys are ready? Let's test this out. Compile and save. And when we go back to test, if I press play, take a look at this now. Way better, right? It doesn't clip anymore, right? It looks like a real gun, and it has a much better way of working, right, in terms of how that looks, okay? It's a bit of a fix I wanted to share with you because it made me truly annoyed, right? Like it was a really annoying thing for me. Okay? And yours is a little bit weird, but yeah. But what it really does is like it actually shows you the butt of the gun, right? Which is like, hey, the butt of the gun is right here, kind of thing. You see the whole thing. Lots of ways to fix this problem, by the way. We can actually lower the gun even more, change everything, change the the angles and stuff. Like lots of ways we can fix this, but this is just one way of doing it. Okay, so it doesn't clip. All right, back to this. So what I want to do now is in FPS character, I want to add a new function called set HUD health. This is important. Let's do that. So again, back to this. Set HUD health would be a new function, right? So set HUD health. And set HUD health is going to do a couple things. One, we want to get a reference to the FPS HUD. We just made that, so that's the first thing. We'll drag that in. So control drag will give you the reference to FPS HUD. That's from this new thing we just made. And then I want to get the attributes thing now, right? So I want to get a reference to that. So attributes is right here, just drag that in. So there's attributes. So now we know that attributes have health related to it as well, those two things, right? And the FPS HUD actually gives us a reference to the FPS overlay. So if I just type in get FPS overlay, we get a reference to our user interface. This is the reference to the user interface right here. So from the HUD, we get a reference to the user interface. And then from attributes, we get a reference to get health percentage, right? So if we do the get health percentage, we get this little function, which returns a health percentage. The FPS overlay, remember, has a set health bar percent. We just made that, so let's do that. That's a new function, so I'll say set health bar percent. That's the function we defined in the FPS overlay. I want to connect the execution nodes here, like so, and pass in the percent of the player. By default, get health percentage, right? Remember, is that little inline function that calculates your health over your max health. Our health right now is 100. Our max health is 100, which means if we were to connect this somewhere for the first time, then everything would be great. It would just actually show 100 health instead of half health. And I'm just going to wait till everyone's finished because this adds user interface. And then we'll take a short break after this. Okay. So again, there's a method to my madness, I swear. All right. It's not like I randomly put stuff together and throw things together. You have to kind of do all the dependencies first before able to do things. And that's what I've done for you. I've done the dependencies on the C++ side. I've done the dependencies on the editor side. I've added stuff on the user interface. Then I connect things back into the editor. And one thing after the other flows. Okay. So now that I've got this, let's test the two things. So first of all, this is with my HUD. This is my HUD here as an example. Here it is. Without, notice that it's on the left, I can see it's like half health, right? Notice that right now? Half health. So I know right now my HUD hasn't been updated because it's half health. Let's stop this. Now let's connect it. So what I want to do now is if I go back to my editor and I have this new function, let's connect this to the event graph. So after here in the event graph, I want to take this new function set set HUD health, this one, and this set HUD health. Now that I've connected it to my event begin play, right? As an example, this little new function in event begin play. So here's event begin play. I just added it on to the end, right? Which means when my project, my game launches, it's going to automatically set the HUD health. So let's compile and save now. And if you press play, look at that, it's 100. And that's great. If it's 100, that means that I'm able to connect to my user interface from my player, which is really great. All right, let's do the same thing with the next function, which is set HUD ammo. Set HUD ammo. So again, go back to this and go here. I'm going to make a new function, and we'll call this set HUD ammo. Here we are. Set HUD ammo is the same thing. I'm going to get a reference to the FPS HUD and attributes first. So FPS HUD, control drag, attributes, drag. And then from my FPS HUD, I want to get a reference to the FPS overlay. So I'll say get FPS overlay, like I did last time. From my attributes, I want to get ammo. There's the ammo that I have in my attributes, right? So you can see that those things I have together. The FPS overlay allows me to set the ammo amount, right? There's set ammo amount, and I can just simply connect the ammo to the ammo amount here and kind of connect the execution pins. And now I have another way of setting my ammo, right? So compile and save. So this is the ammo amount, right? Again, I got this from the FPS HUD. There's the attributes, and there we go. All right, so compile and save, you've done that. Just waiting for everyone to catch up. So now if I test this out, again, two tests. First test is, you can see here clearly that 999 is my ammo. That's bad, right? But if I go back to my character and I go to the event graph and I grab this set HUD ammo and I attach it on there, like so, then if I press compile and save, you can see now that I should have 0 or 50, whatever the amount is. I have 50. That's 50 ammo, right? And now you know that it's updated the ammo. Started at 999, but now we've added this on, and this is exactly what I do here. I'm going to do that in the next page. One more function I want to add in. This is a really cool utility function before we stop and take a break. Okay? This function right here. So I want to talk about pure functions. Okay, and what those are. So has ammo is the new function I want to add in. Let's type that, copy that, has ammo. And I'm going to kind of add that function in here, has ammo. And has ammo is going to access the attributes. So I'm going to say, hey, attributes, pull that in. And after the attributes, I want to get ammo. So get ammo. So it basically says, how much ammo do I have? That's what it basically says. If ammo is greater than, put the greater than sign, right, 0. So if I have more than 0 ammo, that's all I've done here, right? Then I'm going to return true or false. So the way it works is I can add a return node here. So I can add return node. And that return node is empty, but if I drag and drop from here, which is a Boolean type, to here, it'll create the Boolean output, right, called return value. And here, what I can do is I can put this function. So here is my regular function. It's called has ammo, and it's a way of checking to see if I have ammo. Instead of doing this like every single time. So imagine if I had to write this whole thing out every time I want to check to see if I have ammo. Man, it's ugly. So here's what it would look like if I compile and save and I go to the event graph and I pull that function in. It looks like this, right? It's a blue function. So imagine I have to actually put an execution pin through here again. I don't want to do this. I want to use it just like those green functions where I don't have an execution pin, right? So if I remove that, go back to has ammo, and on the object itself, has ammo, if you click onto it, on the right, you can see there's a pure checkbox. If you check the pure checkbox, it means that functions do not need to have an execution pin, okay? Force this to be a pure function is what it is, right? So that means that if I compile and save, and if I go back to the event graph now, I don't need this anymore, and if I pull in has ammo, it becomes a green little box that just has a little check. Do I have ammo? Yes or no? And then you can see that if I don't, I can use this as part of my check, which is pretty cool. So why did I build this? Because I want to modify my IA fire event, right? So that I cannot fire unless I have ammo. I cannot fire in my IA fire event unless I have ammo, right? So again, let's go back to that. So IA fire. By the way, if I typed in somewhere like this, IA fire, it's going to it'll allow me to put it in again, right? Even though I have it already. It's just letting you know, right? So, so here's aim, here's fire, right? Here's what the old version of fire looks like. What I want to do is make a check now. I want to have ammo, check to have ammo, and use a branch. Let's talk about that for a second. So to do this, I'm just going to zoom out a little bit, grab all this, and pull it to the right. Here we go, right? So that you can see I'm going to make some room. And here's what I want to do, guys. I want to grab that has ammo node that I just made. Has ammo. There we go, has ammo. And then I'm going to pull over here and type in branch. So branch is like an if statement. Okay, that's what it is. And let's connect the branch because you need to have the branch connected like so. So if I have ammo, right? If I have ammo, I can fire, right? I can do this. I can fire, right? If I have ammo, this is a check. So a branch is like an if statement, like I said. If the condition is true, if I do have ammo, then the true execution pin triggers. If I don't have ammo, the false execution pin triggers. That's what this does, okay? So that's the first check I want to make. True, false. The next one I want to do is I want to talk about, like, this is a pretty long line of stuff. I have a long line of execution functions that I want to do, right? And what I want to do here is you can add something called a sequence node here as well, okay? So a sequence node, I'm going to kind of grab all these and move them over a little bit, is interesting. It's like I can add it, if you want lines of code to be coded in one line after the other, you can use a sequence node and it'll go do this. It'll do this one, then this one, then this one, then this one. It'll do it exactly in the sequence you want it in, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to add the sequence node in, sequence. And once I've added the sequence node, notice that there's a then clause. So after it's true, then do this, then do this, then do this, then do this. So I have another then clause. After I do all of these, I want to remove ammo. That's what I want to do. I want to remove ammo with the next thing, right? So let's drag this over. I'm going to add a reroute node so that we have a little bit of control, reroute node. And then from here, what I want to do is I want to grab my attributes. Here's my attributes. And I want to get my ammo, get ammo. And I want to decrement it with the decrement operator. The decrement operator is minus minus. So if I go minus minus, then I have the decrement operator. Now, this is like me doing ammo is equal to ammo minus 1, right? So instead of me doing that, I can just use the decrement operator, which is a very handy little tool to remove 1 point of ammo from my ammo count. That's what I'm doing here. And then once I've done that, I want to update my HUD. So I'm going to set the HUD ammo again. So set HUD ammo like this. And that, my friends, is the way I can remove ammo after I fired it. So there's 2 things I've done here. One is check to see if I have ammo. So check to see if we have ammo. That's what this one does, right? And if we do, we can proceed, right? And then if we do have ammo, we can do all this, right? The first thing is, you know, play the sign, you know, I'll do all this like fire your weapon. That's what this part is. So this is like, you know, fire the weapon, right? That's what this part is. So we're going to just do this. Right? That's what this part is. But this part down here is not a fire weapon. This is like remove 1 round from ammo, right? So that's what this is. So remove 1 round from ammo, right? That's what it's going to do. Okay. And by the way, we can change the reroute node just a little bit further back. We can move this around just to make it look nicer. And you can see something like this now. This is what this IA fire looks like, right? And if I run this now, let's take a run it. And if I shoot my gun, right? So let's just do that. So I'm gonna shoot my gun. So you can see that the ammo goes down. Sorry. Okay, let's fire this one once in a while. There we go. And then I can't fire my ammo anymore. Now here's some really interesting things you can do here. Because I don't have ammo, I could play a click, 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 click sound. Like if we have that sound. We don't have that sound here, but if you wanted to, you can grab a click, click, click sound. Because we don't have any ammo, it'll go click, 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 click. You have no ammo, you know, kind of thing. Or you could put a, you know, kind of some kind of message to the user saying reload, you know, kind of thing, right? If you had an extra clip. We don't have an extra clip, but that is basically control for our ammo. Okay, this is great, and it's and like I said, we definitely need to put those in place, which is what we did already. And I think this is a great place to take a short break. What we've done is we've added the ability for us to show our health and ammo on our HUD and reduce the ammo amount every time we fire. So let's put that up on GitHub or DevOps. So again, make sure you save everything here. Okay, that's important. And go back to Visual Studio, and we're going to say git commit -m, and we'll say added 2 things, right? So HUD health and ammo is what we really did. Git push. All right, and there you have it. So let's take a short break. Let's take like 10 minutes. I'll get my coffee. You guys have some coffee too from the people at home. Hopefully you guys are all doing good. And maybe even catch up. Some of you can catch up if you're behind, right? Because you can follow the PowerPoint. If you're behind me, it tells you everything you need to catch up. So please do that. And then when we come back in 10 minutes, we'll continue.